One. And what is going on, Team Elite? I am Jeremy Funderburg, one of the co-founders and the CEO of the Elite Minds Marketing Agency, here to bring you guys another episode of Elite Perspectives. And as you know, this show is designed for you guys. Every week, I am bringing you the industry elites, people that are going to be able to teach you what it's like to actually be in their world. So you get this inside look. And today, I got an incredible guest speaker. I got a guy who is like a big brother to me. He was my original mentor. He helped me get onto this whole path I'm on now. I got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Wolly Vinyl, Wolly V, Gorilla Bread, the Rebel Star. I got Wolly here, and I think you guys are going to get a ton of value from him. So Wolly, what's shaking, brother? How you doing today?
What up, bro? Too kind, bro. Too kind. I appreciate you having me, though. For real.
Yeah. I appreciate you being here. This is going to be super incredible. I want you guys to know, like, it's not promotion. This guy literally took me in when I was like 10, 11 years old. And he's been a big brother and a mentor to me ever since. And he's played a vital role into the path I'm on now. And for you guys that don't know, he's really big in the art world, had a background in music and rap and hip hop, battle rap from time to time. And he's been in the street art. He has some graffiti style art, big in the comics, and it's been making a huge statement, huge run in the comics world, a ton of projects going on. Published so many pieces of work out there that I'm gonna have links to a lot of the stuff he has going on, so you can check him out. But I kind of want you guys to get this inside look. You know, me and Wolly have a similar background, and I want you guys to kind of hear his story, see how he came up to be the Wolly he is now. So, big bro, question I got for you first. Coming from our background, you know, there tends to be a lot of naysayers. And there's a bunch of people that, you know, that's saying that what you do, that we do, it's not realistic. It's not a realistic path to take. And there can be little support at times. So I want to ask, have you experienced that type of stuff, anything like that? And if so, how did you push through and actually make the decision to pursue your dreams and go down this path?
Yeah, man. I mean, as you know, coming from where we come from, it's the path of art, or, I mean, in recent times it's changed. You know, a lot of people are now like ownership, be independent, yada yada yada. But when I was coming up, especially, like, that's not the conversation. The conversation was try to go to school, try to get a job somewhere, work there until you retire, and hope that everything pans out. You know what I mean? For me, it was always the drive to want to do something of my own, ownership to create, to do. I didn't have a lot of people at the time to look at as an example of doing that, because it just wasn't the path. You know what I'm saying? Hustlers, and I don't just mean like street, but that, and people who was just out to get it however they could get it, work, whatever jobs they had to, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, for a long time, even in school, like, you know, people was like, oh, that ain't gonna go nowhere. That's cool. You can draw. That's cool. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I went through it a lot, man, and I ain't even gonna say fight against it, because it wasn't like nobody was holding something up saying you can't come through here. It was just people saying, I don't see where that goes. I don't see how that's sustainable. You know what I mean? And me saying, all right, well, if it's not, I'm not going to look back wishing I had tried. I'm going to at least put forth the effort and see where I get with it. You know what I mean?
Awesome. So let's take them back a little bit. I want them to hear your story. How did you, who was the kid, Wolly, and what was your story growing up to this path that you're on now?
Man, you know, the kid Wolly was a nice guy. Not to say I'm not a nice guy now, but you know, he was just a kid with a bunch of dreams and ambitions, and art was a way to get away from the everyday realities. You know what I mean? I was born and bred in Lumberton, North Carolina, which most people know Fayetteville. So that's the closest thing people think of, or Myrtle Beach, cutting through there to get to Myrtle Beach. You know, Lumberton's a tough place, man. South Side is where I pretty much grew up um, during that time when I was there. And but for me, the thing that was always a light at the end of the tunnel was if we crossed the tracks from the South Side and what was considered downtown Lumberton, there was a comic book shop, black-owned comic book shop, and Mr. Joe and his wife ran it, and that place was like my go-to sanctuary to really escape. You know what I mean? Like literally cut across those tracks, and you're in a whole different world when you step in that shop. And then when it was over, you know, and the thing about Mr. Joe, he let us hang out in there all day on Saturdays if we wanted to. You know what I'm saying? So that Saturday, we knew we was gonna be away from everything else if we went to the shop. The rest of the week, you deal with what you deal with and maintain. But my parents split. My mom made a decision to come to Charlotte because she felt like there's more opportunity. So she came, got herself on her feet as best as she could. You know, at a young age, I didn't understand what poverty really was. I knew we didn't have tons of money, but I didn't know what the other side was living like either. So it was all normal to me. I just thought everybody, like most people, you think your conditions are what it is till you get exposed to something else. So, you know, my mom came here and Mr. Joe would tell me about this heroes convention thing that was going on. You should figure out where it's at and go and yada yada yada. And I'm like, okay, comic book conventions. That sounds interesting. You know what I mean? But nobody in my neighborhood was talking about it because nobody in my neighborhood. This is by the time I moved to Charlotte. Nobody in my neighborhood. I mean, even the people that like comics, they just didn't talk about it. You know what I mean? And until certain corners of people would get together, and then it'd be like, "Yo, you read that Spider-Man joint?" You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until later I started finding out that some of the dope boys and the stick-up kids and the hustlers were really into comics. They just couldn't. They didn't think they could talk about it because they didn't know everybody else was doing it too. But then when they find out that you can draw, it's like, "Yo, can you draw Spider-Man for me?" And it's like, "Wait, what? You want what?" Like, but you know, that set me on my path to just draw in general. And then I started thinking, well, there's people out there making money off of it. Didn't see too many people that looked like me, but I knew somebody was making money off of it. So it's like, if I can position myself to tell these stories and to draw, not even about me being the greatest artist in the world, but being good at what I could do and learning to get better at my craft and figuring out how to put myself in front of people. Like I would ride on the city bus and notice somebody was looking at me drawing, you know what I'm saying? It was like, oh, so people are interested in this. So if I get it in front of enough people, maybe they'll attract to it, you know what I'm saying? This is before the internet was what it is today, but just understanding I got to get it visible somehow. So that led me down the path of how do I make my art diverse and how I deliver it. I don't have so many options. So go to these conventions. What am I taking? Original artwork. Then you start learning about prints. Then you start learning, oh, if I put it on T-shirts, that's something people can walk around and wear. And then you start developing. Well, actually in high school, I started making comics. Actually in middle school, I started making comics, but it was just on new, like, you know, regular notebook paper. Draw something out real quick, little weird story, make photocopies, hand them out. People like them, they come by and say, yo, that was dope. They hate them, they be like, oh, that was garbage, you know what I'm saying? But whatever the case, they still, when you gonna do another one? That would be the question, you know what I'm saying? So then I sold my first comic book in like 10th grade. Of course, I didn't have no understanding of how the comic world really worked, but I learned what it was to put a book together, and I sold the book for like dirt cheap compared to what I would learn later. I should have original pages, like, you know what I mean? But it was just the idea that another kid was willing to take whatever money they had scratched up, you know, put together and buy my book. So, you know, those things set me on a path, and I took the mentality of the hustlers I knew, the cats who was out there, whether they was hustling something legal or illegal, the mind state of you have to stay constant, you have to stay active, you have to keep yourself out there, and you have to separate yourself from everybody else somehow. Even if we're doing the same thing, what makes me a little different from this person so that I'll appeal to people in a different way, you know? So when I got ready to go to college, and I didn't graduate college, not saying you should or shouldn't to people that's listening. I think that's a personal choice based on what you're trying to do, you know what I mean? And how it applies to you. I do say don't go to college just because you think it's going to give you a career. Like, Jeremy, you can tell people, like, I always stress that point, like, figure out what works for you. For some people, college is great. For other people, it's just debt. You know what I'm saying? But I gave it a shot. And when I got there, I went to an art school, and I was fairly bored overall. I did learn some things that I didn't know before, but the thing that really sparked for me was there was a marketing class, and we had to study companies like Nike, who had, you know, are brilliant when it comes to marketing. They understand, or they have people in place that understand what it is to really put a strategy together and market yourselves. So that elevated my mind on how do you reach people, how do you make contact, how do you get in front of people, you know, because I had to research all these books and books and books on strategies that these companies were using, you know what I'm saying? And so it was like, man, I don't have the funds, the resources financially that they have, but I can get out here and be active. Guerrilla marketing is a thing, you know, so I started to apply that to art shows, the conventions I was going to, any event, anything that was happening, any chance to put my work in front of people. It was like, let me figure out some kind of way to position myself to do it. So, you know, that was a learning lesson. And during that time I met you, you know what I mean? That was a constant learning lesson. And it's still a learning lesson to this day. Like what we're going through right now is you have to learn to adapt and adjust and move forward. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean that's the core of my story, man. Like without getting into some of the super gritty details, you know.
Awesome. I appreciate that, bro. And it's super cool because a lot of people tend to think you have to have this perfect background where everything just lines up to be successful, but that's very, very rarely the case.
Right.
And
right. That's rarely the case at all. Most people just don't share certain things. You know, for me, I learned. For me, it became important to share those things because I knew that there was other cats out there like me who didn't see that type of representation, or people who thought because I come from this or because I'm that, I can't be this thing over here. Who's going to take me serious, or who's going to let me in? And it's like, it's not about letting me in. Like, open your own doors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, having somebody that knows somebody and yada, all those things are very important. There's a lot of people who succeed off of who they know more than what they know. You know what I mean? But you know, in the words of Nip Hussle, opportunity meets preparation. You know what I'm saying? Being prepared for whenever those doors open, or kick them joints open yourself if you must, but not taking no for an answer, and understanding that if we can survive the climates we come from, then we can definitely maneuver in this other world. You know what I mean?
That's right, man. One thing I credit you for all the time, because most people, especially people that meet me now, they don't know I'm a natural introvert. They don't know the quiet Jeremy I was when you met me.
Right.
And I just remember being at a show with you when I was in 11th grade. And I remember, man, I'm trying to push pieces of work. And I remember I had like all the excuses in the world. I'm like, man, it's because I'm young. It's because I'm black. It's because of this and that. Now, all these excuses about why people wasn't buying my work. And I just remember you tapping me on my shoulder and going, hey, little bro, closed mouths don't get fed. You got to speak up and get noticed.
Right.
And I've lived by that every day since then. I was like, all right, I got to speak up and get noticed. And I was a little arrogant with it at first. Now, when I look back, I remember guys coming talking to y'all, and I'll just jump in. I was like, nah, I'm speaking up and getting noticed.
Right. Which we didn't mind, because, I mean, we looked at it like that was the purpose of you being there. You know what I mean? And it's the learning lessons of it all, you know? So my thing was, I was glad that you took that insight and ran with it and developed it into something bigger, you know what I'm saying? Whereas some people would have been like, nah, I'm still be quiet. I'm still sit here like the world's against me, so I just can't make no moves. You know, and everything that you was feeling was probably true in some aspects, but there was the bigger picture of, but if nobody don't know you exist, then how they gonna know that you're hungry? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I look at the pack mentality. You see a bunch of puppies getting fed. The ones who fall back and don't push through the crowd typically don't eat as well unless somebody notices them and pulls them out to feed them. It's a, you know, it's a very rough way to live, but you know, that's just the reality. So once you realize that this is how you're gonna eat, you took that and ran with it. Like, nah, I gotta eat, so I'm gonna step over whatever's in the way and at least let it be known that I'm here. They can't say they didn't know I was here. You know what I mean? So I always respected that. And I always, I've seen a lot of other people who didn't, still to this day, don't take that to heart, you know?
You got to. I think it's important now. My whole business is based off of that concept. And I think obscurity kills off more businesses than anything else.
Right.
And no matter how people look at it, when they look at the reason companies go under, they can have a million reasons. But I think when you look at the core of it, it's because they didn't know how to get noticed. It's obscurity's killed them. They can say, oh, they're undercapitalized. So it's like, all right, well, if they can speak up, get noticed in front of the people that can get them the funding, then they wouldn't be undercapitalized. They say, well, all failure from companies come from they're not able to sell, quantities high enough and prices high enough to sustain the business. So, all right, well, if they got noticed and it was in front of people more, they'll be able to do that. But if people don't know you exist, they don't know about you and your product, there's no way they could ever spend the money with you.
At all. That's true. That's the truth.
I got to thank you for teaching me that concept, because that's definitely one that's led to where I'm at now. But
very much respected.
But going on to the next thing, I know you have a family, so I want you to explain to the audience what it's like to still push and still keep up that grind every day. Wow, it's like, oh man, I got 2 kids and I got a wife. I got to manage being the father. I got to manage being the husband. But then I got all these projects and the day-to-day tasks I got to handle. Plus, I got to keep pushing forward for the future. What's that like? How do you manage that?
I mean, I'm not going to sit here in front, or as the young cats say, I ain't going to hold you. Like, it's work. You know what I mean? It's finding balance. I think that's whether you work for yourself or work for somebody else or work for whatever. You know what I mean? A lot of people go to work 40, 50 hours a week, come home and they're too tired to do anything else, or they don't have the motivation to do anything else, But my mentality was always, if it's worth something, you invest in it in some form of fashion, If I'm working for this company, putting in X amount of hours to make whoever rich, successful, and happy, I got to put some time in for myself. And if I'm going to go over here and speak to kids that I don't personally know, I just want to see them succeed, I got to have that same time or more, if not more, should be more, for my own kids. You know what I mean? And the same thing with my wife. Like, it's all about balance at the end of the day. But I try to have schedules up. I have notes. You seen my office. I have notes all over the place of what needs to be done, what should be happening. But then organic things happen. Like, your daughter walks in the middle of you trying to meet a deadline, and that's due tomorrow, and she's like, "Hey, can you come read this book with me? Can you come talk about this? My stuffed animals. I want to hang out with them. Can you come?" And now you shift your whole everything. It's gonna be an all-nighter. Like, that's just what it's gonna be. Sometimes I might have to say, "Hey, baby, just come in here with me and chill out. Let me get this done, and then we'll do it." But a lot of times it's just, "All right, I'm gonna go do what she needs and come back." In my household, I probably have the most flexible schedule, but that's oftentimes very detrimental to me later, because it means that I'm going to be playing catch up for trying to make sure that everybody else is caught up. But I think that's the responsibility of being independent. You have to find a balance. You have to stay on top of yourself. Most people go to their job and they know there's a superior of some sort, somebody to come in and say, "Yo, make sure that's done by 12 o'clock. Yo, do this to them." When you're independent, especially as an artist, you're coming up with deadlines that may not even be realistic sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you saying, "Yeah, I can get this done in 2 weeks," and it's something that's going to take a month and a half. But you know that you got to find the balance. You want to put as best as you can into it, but still get it done enough to where you can move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But your work is your calling card, so you want to make sure that it represents what it's supposed to. So it's constantly the balance, man. Like, I'm still not in that place where I can just be like, "Oh, I just don't want to take nothing unless I want to take it." I can't pick and choose some things, but I still take work sometimes that's not a dream project, but it's something that's going to pay bills or put money in the accounts or whatever, you know what I mean? Or do for the kids or whatever might need to be. But I'm definitely learning to be selective about the value of my work and what I'm taking part in. And I'm also finding myself making more time to just get better at my craft in the midst of still working and still balancing, and figuring out what my kids really enjoy and want to do, because I never try to push the hip hop side or the art onto them like, yo, y'all gotta get into this. Like, oh, just make dad proud and look like, nah, I want them to find their way. And I take a lot of time trying to explore that with them. Same with my wife. She has a career, but she's also working on a career outside of her career. You know what I mean? So however I can assist or aid in that is what I try to do. At the end of the day, shoot, if I can help them be successful, then I can fall back a little bit and kind of just focus on the aspects of art I really enjoy. You know what I mean? But you know, I think it's all just about balance, man. Like the family life is major. It means it's the motivation for the other stuff that I'm doing. So if I don't take care of that, then am I really doing what I need to be doing out here? You know what I mean?
That's good.
So, you know.
So just really quick, take us through a day in the life. What was I want to say a typical day, but I know every day is different. But right. So for everybody wanting to get into the art world, do art yourself, I can guarantee you every day is going to be different. Right. But on basis, like when it comes to a day, what does a average, quote unquote, average day look like for you?
Well, before all this quarantine, I mean, you know, I think for a lot of artists, the quarantine stuff hasn't changed our activities, but it's probably changed how we have to, you know, interact with our families and everything. But you know, me, I try to have certain days that are answer email days that are more boring. Like I'm just going through emails and messages and whatever. You'd be amazed at, well, you probably know for certain how long it can take to just dig through emails and instant messages and DMs. But days that aren't those days, you know, I typically go to sleep. That time varies based on my daughter, but I typically go to sleep super late, get up super early. I normally wake up between 4:30 and 5:30 every morning. So now I'm not gonna lie and say every morning I stay up that whole time. Some mornings I get up, get a few things done, lay back down for 30 minutes, then get back up. But I'll get up once whatever's done with the kids and the dogs and making sure that stuff is in order. I typically jump up and either do some what I would call warm-up sketches, or I'll get straight to something that's got to be turned in. Get that work done for a few hours. If the kids were in school, I would go to their schools and pick them. Well, I'd take them to school. I try to make sure I do that every day. You know what I'm saying? Up until this stuff started happening. Take them to school, come back to pick them up. I know I'm gonna have a certain amount of time where I'm sitting in line. So I take sketchbooks, or I'll take traditional work that I have that's not digital, and I'll work on that in that time frame. Or if I don't have anything to work on, I just make sure I keep sketchbooks so I can keep my ideas running, jot down ideas, work out sketches, or just practice. Come back home, get family life kind of balanced out, come back in, get back to it. Some days it'll just be, this is the project that's due, so I'm working on that. Other days it'll be, all right, let me, I got pages to do. How many pages do I need to get done this week? So whatever that schedule might be. But, you know, like you said, it varies. Just going on what the project is, what the deadlines are. If I'm negotiating something else, which would be a whole nother thing, I might spend some days, I'm just responding to contract offers or proposals I'm sending out, or prepping something to send to a possible client or whatever. I spend a lot of days answering messages from people who are like, yo, I want you to do my such and such. It's the greatest idea ever. And then I'm like, all right, cool. You know, what's the budget? I need you to do it for free because it's going to blow up. We're going to be rich. And it's like, that might be true, but just in case it ain't, I need to pay these bills in between time. So, you know, but a lot of time dedicated to just having conversations with people. You know, I spend a lot of time trying to educate people on this process of art and putting projects out and doing things, and most of the time I'm not charged, which my wife is always getting on me like, yo, you need to start charging a flat fee to have these conversations, which is true in some ways, but I also feel like I didn't have many people to talk to myself, and I had to stumble through a lot of things, and the few people I did come across who were willing to answer questions happily answered those questions. You know what I'm saying? So I try to give that same energy back as much as I can, you know, within a certain limit, because sometimes people will take your whole 2 or 3 days from you, and you looking back like, I ain't getting nothing done, but now they're off to what they got to do, you know. But I just try to make sure I give insight as best I can as well. And I also spend a decent amount of time researching. you know, whether it's researching for the craft or researching from the aspect of marketing, reading, studying, looking at what other people have done or haven't done. Shoot, looking for you know, in good influential art or projects, how people marketed their projects. Like I'll go and bro, I spent a lot of time just studying Kickstarter and Indiegogo campaigns, like just seeing what worked and what didn't work, and trying to figure out, if I can't get in touch with the person to ask questions, just trying to figure out from afar how that worked, why that worked, what was the strategy, was it an accident, was it part accident, was it all planned, you know what I mean? Like just to gain that insight, man. And then somewhere in between there, I get back to drawing again. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. So that's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
So everybody else thinking about getting to the art world and the comics, you're like, oh, it's simple. I just sit down and I draw pictures and that's it. Like, nah, it's a lot of behind the scenes that go into there also.
A whole lot. Unless you know, you've reached that place where you've got, you know, assistants or interns or whoever to take some of those other responsibilities. And even some people who are in that position, they're still, you know, don't draw as much as they have to do 50 other things. You know what I mean? But for me, I just always tell people it's work, especially in the early stages. But just get yourself to a place where you still enjoy it. You know, you don't want to lose the love for it, because then you'll hate every time you pick up a pencil or stylus or a mouse or whatever, because it becomes so oversaturated with being a job, you lose your love for it, you know. And that's something I don't want to do, because this definitely saved me or gave me outlets in a lot of ways when I didn't have them, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Awesome. And we've hinted at some aspects of this, but I got to deep dive into it because I know you've been in the art game for a little bit and you've seen the different changes. So I got to
Yeah.
ask, when it comes to social media, how have you seen that affect the art world? You know, what impact has it had on it? How has it changed some things? Talk about that.
Let me tread carefully here. You know, on one side, it's definitely opened up the door for a lot more artists to be seen. It gives people a lot more options as to what they want to gravitate towards, so they're not just stuck dealing with whatever may be popular, even though some people still flock to whatever's popular. But you know, people are able to find audiences that like what they do a little easier. But on the flip side, it is extremely saturated too, because there's so many people now who maybe weren't into art before, but now they're like, well, shoot, I can draw Goku from a picture of Goku, and I can put that joint up, and people gonna like it or maybe buy it. I'm gonna get in there, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it turns back into a hustle for them, you know what I mean? And so you have the person who maybe studied all of these, and there's levels to it, right? You got some artists who they're super traditional artists and they don't like the digital stuff, but they like social media because it gets their work in front of people and their process in front of people. And then you have people who are digital or traditional or whatever, and they study and study and study, and then they see somebody else who does something totally left of what they're doing, and they got 1 million followers, and it's like, it blows their mind, because they're like, well, why can't I get those followers? So it can become this internal conflict for some people. But I tell people, you got to just learn to just focus on finding yours. It is frustrating sometimes if you feel like somebody just walked in and had whatever to their advantage that outshined the actual work that they do, but somebody else could see you from that perspective based on where they're coming from. So you just got to kind of move away from that and focus on, like, what am I doing to put my work in front of more people? Whether that's, you know, we know the algorithms can be crazy on social media, you know, and sometimes you get upset because somebody got all these followers and you don't know how they got them. You don't know if those followers are real, if they're not. Especially now, they're making it even harder to kind of figure out what's reality and what's not. But I'm like, yo, just figure out what is your level of success and how can you use social media to benefit you, you know. Some people are super strong on Facebook, others are super strong on Twitter, others are super strong on Instagram. Which one is it that fits you the most? Use all of them if you can, but which one fits you the most? And make sure that you tap into your demographic and continue to slowly grow it. I would rather have, you know, 1,000 people who really rock with me than 20,000 in number and only 10 or 15 that really are interacting and checking for what you're doing and supporting whatever it is you're doing. So, if you can get those numbers, then more power to you. But I just focus on making sure I stay true to the people I interact with, and the people who are there and the people who show up and want to see what's going on. You know what I mean? I can't compete with certain other artists all day from a friendly perspective. Yeah, but like trying to get tied up into what they're doing, I try to learn from them though. If I see somebody pop up on social media and I watch them go from one place to another and it's really working, boom, let me research, let me study. If I can reach out to them, let me tap in and see what they're willing to share, same as I would do for whoever else, you know what I mean? So yeah, social media comes in real handy, man. I think it gets us in front of people. I used to be happy. I'm still happy, but I used to be happy if somebody in another country picked up one of my books from somewhere, whether it was a campaign or whatever. But now I can talk. I mean, you can jump online and interact with somebody in every continent, on every continent in seconds. You know what I'm saying? It's a pretty amazing thing. It's pretty wonderful. So there's ups and downs to it. It definitely makes the market a lot more competitive. There's a lot more people out there, and you're trying to get. It's like TV networks, you know what I'm saying? You're trying to have the content that people want to come over and check out, but just focus on making good content and just focus on trying to position that content in front of people who will appreciate it. You know what I mean? For me, that's what the bottom line comes down to.
Awesome. So I hope you guys are taking a bunch of notes on that, and you should just really, really take that moment to really think about what he said about figure out which channel works for you.
Right.
Because social media is our deal. I do not dabble with Twitter. It's not a profitable means to me. It's impossible to get noticed on there sometimes. I just don't even touch it. If you want to be relevant on Twitter, one, you have to figure out how to build a following, figure out how to grow organically on there, and you have to post between 8 to 15 times a day. And I'm not doing that. Even if it comes to scheduling the post, I ain't doing that.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying, Instagram and Facebook, I get a lot more traction. I've learned that Facebook, as far as people who are willing to jump in and support with shares and finances, I get a huge outpouring from Facebook, much larger than Instagram. But I think it's because that is full of people who've been rocking with me for a longer period of time, because I was kind of late to Instagram. So people on Instagram are starting to convert, but it's just a process. It's a process of continuing to build that up. I ain't on the TikToks and the Twitters. Twitter's never been my thing. I tried it for a little while, but it's like,
Yeah. I tell everybody, TikTok's gonna be the future. As soon as people learn how to use it, I haven't learned how to use it yet, but then actually I was just talking on the last episode with John Molyneux. I was like, man, I was listening to an interview with Kevin Hart. And it's like, man, you're killing it on TikTok. Like, how do you use TikTok? And Kevin Hart's like, I don't even know how to use TikTok. So I just lean into that. And every video is about him not knowing how to use TikTok.
Right. He found his niche. He found his niche, which I think everybody needs to do. But he also, he's already got a built-in audience who travels with him. You know what I'm saying? So that helps too. But that's the thing. Figure out what works for you. It may not be as planned out as somebody else's is. You know what I'm saying? You may need to be kind of free with it. You know what I'm saying? I got a cousin who was building on something before all this stuff started, where he was just kind of him and two of my cousins they would just kind of post randomly on the Instagram lives before it really started turning into where everybody was kind of using them. And it would just be them talking about weird or random things, but from a perspective that was a little more sarcastic and fun, and people started tapping into it because it was like so natural. It wasn't super planned, it wasn't super structured, but then it starts to grow into something, and you realize, okay, now I gotta kind of figure out how to keep this where it stays what it needs to be and grows. You know what I'm saying? So, a little bit of chess comes into play with that part. Trying to be a few moves ahead of yourself and prepared to expand.
Well, now we're going to jump into a game. It's called Elite Instincts. And Basically, the way it's going to work, Wally, I'm going to say a word, and you have to respond back with one word, ideally one word, the first word that comes to mind after hearing it. You ready?
All right, let's go.
All right. Grind.
Hustle.
Wealth.
Silence.
Energy.
Life.
Books.
Books. That's weird, right?
Superhero.
Parents.
Balance.
Life.
College.
Woo. I had too many thoughts to run through. I couldn't even pull one. We'll say it again. College.
College.
Research.
All right. Innovation.
Life.
Fear.
Life.
Success.
Self.
Art.
Life.
King.
Hopefully each of us. I don't know how to put that in one word, but you know what, King? Man. King. Leadership.
I like that.
Yeah.
Last one. Wally V.
Man, stand up dude, man. Try to be anyway, you know. Honorable.
There you guys go, from the stand-up man himself. And it's been absolutely cool. I appreciate it. I gotta say, when I said king, my expectation, I thought you were gonna say supreme.
You know what? Then it never ran across my mind until after I said what I said. And it was like, well, he's sitting right there on the wall looking at me. But when I hear the term, you know, I start thinking about what does it mean to be a king, you know, which is what King Supreme is all about. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Cool. Well, nothing left to do now but just open up the floor for you. Let these guys know what you got going on, what projects you're working on, what should they be keeping an eye out for.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Appreciate being able to be on here. Shoot, first and foremost, bro, I'm proud of you. You know what I mean? Keep doing what you're doing, maintaining,
Appreciate it.
teaching, expanding. Me personally, you know, they can catch me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Wolly V. That's WOLLYV. From there, you can. My Facebook is spelled weird. It's like William Wallace with an extra C in it. So just catch me over there on Instagram. Right now, man, prepping the follow-up King Supreme book, which was pretty successful for me personally. It was a personal success. The book did 6,000 in pre-orders, so nice. You know, there's books that do way more, way less, but for me that was amazing. Prepping some other projects, Fairy Tale Nights, revisiting that, and a couple things I'm working on with my daughter. She's co-creating some projects with me, and then right now on the business side, as far as clients, finishing some concept work, character design work, you know. But on IG, just keep up with me, man. About to dabble back into the world of t-shirts and fashion a little bit, kind of see where that's going. Before all this stuff hit, we was prepping an art show for June. Right now, the way things are looking, not sure if that's going to happen at all or not. Even if it does, I don't know that it will be at the same caliber we were working on before. But, you know, just reevaluate, replan, regroup, you know what I mean? But mainly right now, bro, just prepping these new pieces, prepping these new projects, and figuring out how to jump into the digital side a little harder. I just saw a young lady do amazing with an all digital project, just showing what could be done in the world of digital literacy, you know what I'm saying? Graphic novels, comics, yada, yada, yada. So it made me like, I was already tapped into it, but made me really want to sit down and say, okay, what else can be done here? You know, so research. I'm about to do a lot of research for a little bit, you know? Yeah.
Awesome, cool. And I'm gonna throw some links down in the description for you guys to go follow him. I'll link some of his projects for you guys. Make sure you guys keep an eye out for him. He's one of the most up and coming, top notch guys out there. His projects are about to take off. I mean, you heard it, King Supreme, 6,000 in pre-orders. I want you guys to follow him and make sure his next project does double that. And we hope you guys are getting a lot of value from this episode. And that's all we got for you. I'll see you guys on the next show.